Anderson, and we love seeing everybody here for our last lecture of the season. Mr. Tim Gruner, who's over there, will be telling us about everything that's gone on in the 2025 season and what we're going to be looking forward to in 2026. Just a couple things before we start. We have Illuminated starting on December 4th. It's going through January 4th, but check the calendar because we're not open every single night. 22 dates between December 4th and January 4th. We have the Fireside Music Series. We've rebranded it. It used to be the Coffee Shop and Music Series, Fireside Music, way too long. I couldn't even say it. So we just, the Fireside Music Series, and you just got to assume that there's going to be coffee there too. So Max is coming back. That starts January 14th. It's going to be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays, 4 days a week for, we just extended it to like, March 14th? This is screwing me all up. So it was March 7th. I think it's March 14th now, but sometime in, let's call it mid-March. And different musicians every day, as we customarily do. We mixed it up last year with a couple singer-songwriters and some other types of musicians, not just the orchestra type musicians. So they will be back again this year. Some fun facts about 2025 season. We broke 80,000 general admission guests for the first time in the history of the world. So that's great. So when we say 80,000 guests, that doesn't include Tuesday Evening in the Gardens. We had a great Tuesday Evening in the Garden series this year. We had one cancellation due to weather. It's generally, we have some weather-related, whether it's super hot, storms, but only one weather-related cancellation. That was in week 2. Our average guest per concert day was just over 600. It's like 608, but I rounded it up to 610. Don't tell anybody. Last year was 483, and I rounded that up to 485. So you can see where this is going.
Numbers guy.
Yep, I am a numbers guy. Yeah. And then Garden Explorers this year. Holy cow. A record year for Garden Explorers. That's our kind of parent tot program on Thursday mornings, 10 weeks. I don't know what the average was, sorry. But it was high. It was much higher than normal. And it's always fun to see the garden activated with young families early on Thursday mornings. Now we had to stop giving out fish food for a little while because we had too many Canada geese. You know what they do, right? What they eat comes out and it makes a mess. So we stopped feeding fish for what, 3 weeks, maybe 2 to 3 weeks? It was a long time. And in hopes that they went away, and they did go away. But we don't like to stop feeding the fish because, it's, our guests love feeding the fish. And it's great to see the kids get fired up. My kids used to get fired up. They still do. When they come to Dad's office to feed the fish. So that's about it. I'm going to turn it over to Tim Gruner, the master himself.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, is that coming through the? No. That's all right?
That does count.
More volume?
Let me readjust here.
There you go.
How about now? Okay.
Attach it to your beard.
I could. I could probably hide it in there. Yeah, see, this is how functional. So I'm waiting for Shelley to tell me to cut it off. But that's coming, right? I knew it it's coming. Well, it's great to stand up here and see so many friendly faces. I appreciate you all coming out here on a Thursday night to see what's been happening in the garden for the last year. I won't be able to touch on everything that has happened, and most of this stuff is from my perspective, and as a project guy, more and more. With Nick Estes, who's taken my position here. Nick's done a great job out there, and leadership of the crew really has been under his wing this season, and it's left myself to do more project work, which there has been a lot going on out there, actually for a very long time. So this is nothing new. I think this is like the 12th one of these presentations I've given. And it's kind of fun to go back in and look at some of the old presentations to see just how much we've done. How many new things we've built and how many old things we've kind of revitalized and rebuilt. So that's, I got a lot of slides here, so I'm gonna try not to dwell too long in one spot. I actually took out quite a lot. There's a lot of smaller projects that we did with some stone path repairs and things like that, that it's like, okay, it's too much detail. So I tried to stick to a little bit more of the bigger stuff, the more interesting stuff. And I think if there's a question that just has to be answered during the presentation, I can do that, but I probably would say for the most part, try to keep it until the end so that I can get through this. If I do happen to go a little bit long and you need to leave or that you've had enough, please don't hesitate to do what you need to do and take care of yourself. So, well, I'm going to jump right in here. A picture taken of the guest house, a view out of the guest house this year, and we'll start right there. And like I always like to do with these presentations is take a look at where the garden has been in 5-year increments back in time. And that is what the garden, a part of the garden looked like in 1980. So you can see it was still kind of in its primordial state, but things are starting to shape up. What used to be called the main gate, we now call it the north gate, was built in 1980. You can see that the area of the zigzag bridge, there's nothing happening over there yet. There might actually be a little beginning of the bridge right back over here at that point, but look at how small that iconic tree is. That is the Spring Creek Partners, John Anderson's, the company's logo. That was a very inspirational tree, and learned a lot about the Japanese gardens and Japanese culture from that tree, which he really wanted to get rid of because it was kind of crooked and asymmetrical. And Koichi said, no, we're gonna use it. And he dug the tree from the front yard at the house and brought it down into the garden and put it in like one of the most prominent positions. And so that was a lesson that, things that aren't like perfectly symmetrical and maybe they're crooked a little bit, that actually can be a valuable thing. And it actually sort of reflects the feeling of nature quite clearly. So 1980, the coin basin was installed in 1980. Check out Huichi in 1980. Right. So what are we talking about? 45 years ago, Huichi would have been in his early 40s in this picture. Really rocking the bibs, huh? Nick's a bib guy right there. It's in the lineage. And there it is actually being installed. Look at how little the pine trees are over there around that coin basin. Look at how short they are. They were just like probably 4 or 5 year old out of the nursery. And then just a few years ago, after we rebuilt the basin, coming up into contemporary times, might have been last year actually. 1985, the guest house was under construction. So it's been 40 years for that structure. Can you see okay over there? Yeah. But this is 1985, look at the garden is being built, the inner garden. Look at how the trees are developing, and just in 5 years since the image of the coin basin. Really developing. The maintenance shop was built in 1984, it's over there. And that was a view from the guest house shortly after construction. And now just a couple of years ago I took this picture of that space. 1990, the West Waterfall was under, it was full construction mode. And this is later in the season. I'm sorry, this is in May of 1990. So early, the honeysuckle and such are just starting to leaf out. I dug this tree unfortunately passed away, but I remember digging the hole right there, and that was a brutal hole. It's so compacted, original soil with rocky clay. That was a horrible thing to have to do, but I wish the tree would have lived. But you can see now the plants are going in and the boulders are all set. And here is Hoichi, Hamada Masahiro, Mike Elena, and a couple of Hoichi's guys laying out the viewing deck at the west waterfall. So often, you know, it's, there's no real blueprint for any of this. It's just what lines work the best out there in the field. And so we do little mock-ups with things like this in order to figure things out before we build them. It's hard to do that on paper. So out in the field, standing there, it's improvisational gardening. You can draw what you want, and this whole thing was done, the whole garden was done with conceptual drawings that are then just engaged in the field by Hoichi or whoever is doing the work. And that's where it all started in this case. Look at how small and young the plants are around there.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's 35 years ago. There's Hamada on the roof of the gazebo. The round gazebo was also built in 1990. That's actually his son. His son right there, Kinichiro. And then this drone shot taken by Jeff Anderson here just 2 or 3 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, but it gives you the sense of how much that space has developed over time. 2000, we were in the final throes of putting the Garden of Reflection together, and people don't know that there were originally all these upright elements in this area, and they help kind of connect that part of the garden together with the angel, the pillars that the angels stand upon, and so it was a really cool look. And you can still see the trees are propped up with bamboo and wood. So this is very early. We would have planted these trees I think we planted the pines in March, and this is later in the season. I'm not sure how much later, but unfortunately that stone can't survive in water very well. That's the Indiana wall stone, like a lot of Chicago architecture is built in Indiana. That gray stone that you see in like Chicago architecture a lot, but it can't handle being in water. So we learned. And then another shot of the Garden of Reflection, just after the bridge was installed, the Cypress Bridge to the west waterfall. Is this mic still working okay? Right. 2005. Nothing happened in 2000. I'm just kidding. I think it was a little bit of a resting period. But in 2005, this is really early. This is what the creek bank looked like at that point, with the sheet pile driven in to hold a occasionally raging spring creek. And this was quite a momentous project. And after we cut the steel off underwater, and that's a whole other topic. But here's Hoichi right here. It gives you a sense of how big those rocks are.
Yeah.
So we actually did all the boulder setting from the dam all the way upstream to the final boulders on the north side of the creek. That was 5 days worth of boulder setting. It was quite a thing. You can see Hamada has just built this, the new Cypress Bridge. And Hamada is off doing other projects, all in preparation of gate construction. And then so just a few days later, it looked like that. And then construction of the gate started. There's Hamada and his son Kinichiro again. And Hosono, he's the strong guy. He was the guy that carried the lumber and so forth. 4 Japanese guys were here for that project. It was amazing. Plus Hoichi's crew. And then you've all seen this picture. It's really getting kind of dated. It needs to be updated with a nice quality shot. Mental note, 2010, we built the pavilion. And so we started, you can see the conditions we started in. And not won't go into too many details on that, but not long after its construction, it was in that condition. And then that brings us up to 2015, when we installed the stone pagoda, which was put there. Mr. Anderson, John Anderson, wanted an architectural folly in the garden, so that when you stood on the Cypress Bridge, you could see something off in the distance, an architectural piece, and that's what that the function of that pagoda was. So it sat there. It's been out there since 2010, and I'll go into more on this project in a little bit. But first, we're going to start out with this the maintenance garage, the horticulture garage, which has taken quite a long time, but what you need to know, that was a 10-year project that we've only taken 3 years to build. So you see how efficient we were. But it was really that was a filler project that we built primarily in-house. And so as we had time, we went out and worked on it. So by December 12th of last year, this was the condition. We had the roof on it, it was buttoned up for the season, and now I'm just gonna go through projects in chronological order as they came along. But I'm actually gonna go back in time a little bit with this to illustrate that we are thinking forward at some points. But so when we put in the drainage for this project, we tied into an old pipe that was part of an old filter system for that pond. These are the big pipes down here, and the drainage that comes off the roof and around the building goes through this pipe, and then we tied it into this pipe. And while we had things open, there's things under your feet that you don't know. Here's the exterior arbor, here's the garage, and at the intersection of the path is where that hole was. And inside that hole, we have path light wire and irrigation wire buried that go all the way inside the building. So they're already ready to go, and we're actually just now starting to utilize that stuff. But we planned ahead, and we made that an effective and efficient way to use a trench that was open in the ground to do something that we need to do for the future. So they've been sitting out there unused, but their time is about to come. This was I think the almost winter of 2023. And the location. And then inside the shop, we'll now have in the garage, this will be the location for a transformer for path lights. So we'll be able to update the path lights out there through time. And then this is all the irrigation cable, which we're now beginning to utilize. We will install the clock over here next week. And it'll be ready to go for next season. We'll be able to revamp a lot of old irrigation wire out there that hasn't been particularly, we've been having problems with it, and some of it's been buried for over 40 years, and issues develop. So on one side, and then on the other side, circled in red and white in the shape of an O, or the Ohio State Buckeyes. We got a Buckeye back here, mix of Buckeye. But here's another one of those receptacles on the wall that we'll just plug the transformer in, and all those receptacles are controlled by a timer. So we'll be able to run the lights automatically. So we try to plan ahead. Kind of a nuts and bolts thing, but the main irrigation meter and reverse pressure valve goes in this box. We call it the coffin box because it used to be above ground, and it was a wooden box that looked a lot like a coffin. But now, since the garden reflection was built, the grade got built up and the box became buried. So because we needed the elevation changed for the drive and all that kind of stuff. So we rebuilt that. We do all that kind of stuff in-house. The guys did a real nice job putting that together. Then late February, a chunk of our crew went down to Texas to train at a site by Don and Akiko Miners. They have this near Dallas, Fort Worth, close to where Nick used to live, and it's a pretty amazing site. This is a rapidly expanding garden with presently 2 tea gardens that are very nice, and but now this whole new complex of garden is being built, and so it's a great opportunity to go down there and train with really some of the leaders in the field. Mr. Eto, who you'll see an image of later, and he's in here somewhere, but Yuli and Donovan and Nick went down there, and they're working with like the other top guys in the field. If you read the Journal of Japanese Gardening or the Ski Living magazine, like Asher Brown, John Powell, and Avram Dalton, those are like top guys in this country. And they're all under the direction of Mr. Eto. So it's an amazing training opportunity to be around, like really a great Kyoto trained garden master who's also has a tea name. He studied tea ceremony in order to better understand gardens. The bride's room right around the corner was a big project, so a place for the bridal parties to meet, and we use it as a green room now. It's just right on the other side of those curtains. That was a big project, contracted out. We didn't have to do a lot with that except get things prepped for them. We did a project that brought internet service and Wi-Fi out to the pavilion, which has been a big plus for operations, for the selling of things out there, and the food stands and all the things that are going on out there. So all those kind of nuts and bolts things behind the scenes that help make things work. Nick and Luis and Yuli and Donovan worked on building a storage area on the side of the pavilion support building, which is now, it's getting to be a little messy looking over there. But we now have this is the beginning of the fence project. Nick oversaw setting all the rocks, all the posts. So we dig a post hole. We put the cement on the outside of the post of this cardboard cylinder. And then, I know I've mentioned this before, but then we put the post inside the void and then fill it with crushed granite and then vibrate that in there. And you'd be amazed, it sets up like concrete. But if we need to take it apart someday, which we will because posts rot, we just vacuum the granite out and the post will come out. So for the future, this is what we've been doing on almost all the fences we've been building. And now, instead of just waiting until we have to rip a giant plug of concrete out of the ground, which is really hard to do, we build them like this so that in the future the posts can be replaced. It's more work up front, but the next time they need to be changed, it's like a huge plus. So anyway, minor detail, but important to us. We built a pretty significant storage area up on the top for materials and equipment. This is the site cleared. This is on top of the west waterfall. And there's Nick with Anthony, from A Construction, our concrete guy. Footings dug. You can see the neighbor's house there. Footings poured. And then the wall formed up. And then the wall poured. So it's flat, mostly flat. It's got a little pitch, but we can readily store our trailers and other equipment up there. So it helps make us a more efficient operation. We hung the video monitors up there. We worked with the contractors to bring electric over there. And I think this is the first sign-on with John Gleason there. I think that's been a very positive thing to get information out there. People can see the garden in different seasons and so forth. So that's been a really nice resource. We had a roofer come and put the cedar shingles on the roof. That's one of the things that we didn't want to do for a lot of reasons. And then underneath that cedar is a newer product called Cedar Breather, because these cedar roofs, they don't have a very particularly long lifespan the way roofs are built in the modern days. They used to breathe from below without tar paper, but now we're using the various membranes and so forth on roofs. This stuff, it's like a very open Brillo pad, and it allows air to move underneath the shingles, and so it keeps them dry from the bottom. And so our roofer thinks we'll get a 50-year life out of those shingles. Time will tell. We will see. I'm skeptical, but hopeful. And then we started putting the trim on the garden. Because of its proximity inside the garden, we wanted to make it have a Japanese structure feel. I mean, you got the guest house out there and the viewing house and the tea hut's not far away and all those kind of things. So our intent was to make it a functional but kind of a traditional style building. first lecture, April 17th, was surprisingly interesting for me. It was about Japanese incense. I found there's a whole world of incense out there that's really quite fascinating. So we've had a really great lecture series. And then continued work on the fence, building the structure. You can see that the nice stonework that Nick and the guys did makes it kind of a nice base for the fence to float above. And there we are. We took the time to describe all the pickets to mesh with the rocks nicely. So that kind of work takes a lot of time. We're very happy again to have Greg Affman, who worked for Hoichi for many years. And Hoichi is for those that don't know, I think everybody in this room probably knows who Hoichi is. Who doesn't know who Hoichi is? Okay, a few people. So Hoichi is the designer and builder of the vast majority of this garden. And he was trained in Japan under a great master and did a traditional apprenticeship there. And now Hoichi is 87, I think. He's still making gardens here and there. But his guy, Greg, is a great guy. Greg comes to help us prune every year. Our team is doing a fantastic job out there in the garden, but we need help. I mean, it's such a, it's a big thing to prune 140 pines or whatever there are out there. It takes so much time, and they get bigger every year for the most part. So we bring in Greg, and he's a super functional guy with, look at that, the sass and the overcoming the obstacle of rain with with garbage bags, and that's just a guy that knows how to make it work. We needed to supply water to that storage area, so I'm giving this all in chronological order, just so you can see kind of how we're sticking and moving out there in the garden all the time. That's a good reminder right there. So we actually directional bored from the top, way above the west waterfall, and who doesn't know what directional boring is? Because a few people don't know what directional boring is. Okay, so a machine like this, you're seeing them all along the roads right now, because they're putting in fiber optic lines. So a machine like this basically pushes like a blade through the ground, and there's all these shafts that they then pop in another one. It's like oil, like drilling for oil in a certain way, but they push them through the ground and they can steer them. And they got a device that can tell how deep they are and where they are as they walk along with it. And so they drilled, it's about 200 plus feet, 220 feet or something, from the top of the waterfall all the way down to the pump house down by the creek. And then so we were able to supply water up here to this area so that we can irrigate all of that. And while we were at it, we pulled in an electrical line too, because you can pull multiple lines through once you get the boring unit all the way down to the location, to the destination. June 1st, Nick released the fish to the kids, for the kids. So some new koi out in the garden. That's always a fun and big day. And I like, this is such a great area right here by the guest house, the entrance walk to the guest house. And this one Nova Zembla, which there used to be quite a number of them in the garden. It's a Nova Zembla rhododendron. I love that color.
Yes.
And it's the only one that made it. But look, it's gotten big. I mean, it's gotten really big. So it's been here since I started working here.
Wow.
So it's probably when the guest house was planted in 1985. I'm gonna guess that thing's been there since then. June 19th lecture, Professor Kimiko Gunji. Many of you know Professor Gunji. She's been such a great contributor to so many things here. We're really fortunate to have her like on our side and working with us on a wide array of programs, tea ceremonies and lectures. She's a pretty amazing resource here, talking about the seasons in Japan as reflected in wagashi, the sweets for tea.
Oh yeah, that's
The
right.
Cypress Bridge. So this bridge, the deck boards on there are original to I think 2000 when the Garden of Reflection was built. In 2005, you saw the Fresh Bridge in the pictures that I shot, looking down the creek at the boulder wall. And you can see that the rails and posts were built by Hamada Masahiro before they started working on the main gate. But time has taken its toll, and some of the posts have gotten rotten. You can see how heavy the structure is under that bridge. Those are like 1 foot tall I-beams that were rolled in a machine to have that radius, the 168 foot radius or something like that. That is a solid bridge, but it needed like some posts. This is what the posts look like, where they were contacting soil in spots. And so we needed to redo that. We made space for the posts where they were having trouble drying out. We actually chiseled the side off of the rock on the southwest corner of the bridge. Gave us better access to work as well. And then we, we're not really trained woodworkers. We've just been observing people that know what they're doing for quite a number of years, and so we have a sense of how to make things work. And so we can do simple mortise and tenon layouts, and so we replicated the pieces that needed to be replaced. And we did that over in the maintenance shop. There's Donovan chiseling out a mortise into a post. And then a pre-assembly before going out into the field. And then we mock them up, so we know we have the angles right and dimensions and so forth. And then we went out in the garden. So you see that, eventually these will be kind of the same color, but for now the bridge is gonna last us. We replaced quite a lot of the decking, you can see. So this bridge will be slated for replacement in the next 3 to 5 years or something like that. But this will give us the time to, do fund development and so forth, and have a good plan to replace this bridge. This big concrete wall that we poured in the spring of 2024 it was, and but we finally got around to paving it this year. So these are things that you don't really see, but are important for us to do. Driving steel here to retain this one bit of slope. And then the repaving in action. And then kind of a new shift in direction here with the chief designer Huichi moving on to other things, and a guy that worked for him for 7 years, trained in Japan in a family business of traditional style landscaping. And then Sada, after working for Huichi, did quite a number of things. Here's Sada right here, Sadafumi Uchiyama. So Sada also then was the curator at the Portland Japanese Garden for 17 years or something like that, and was really important in the development of that garden and the construction. He actually designed and then oversaw the construction of the new cultural village. Who has seen the cultural village and the expansion in Portland? A handful have. It's pretty fantastic, I think, and I think most people agree. It's really beautifully done. A massive project. That was a $37 million project, and Sada was the guy in charge of the landscape portion, working with the architect. So anyway, we're really happy to have him here, and this is his first visit, looking at some thoughts on what we would do, project number 1, in the area of the big stone pagoda back in the Garden of Reflection. Sada's sketching style is very loose but very nice. Showing the, we actually installed this basin over the last, actually Nick kind of finished up that area, sort of, you might say finished, but not really ever finished, but it's looking really good back there, and so we're really excited to invite people back there next spring. It'll be open and ready to go in the spring. So anyway, planning was done. We kept working on the garage, the horticulture garage. Wood trim was done. tar paper, and now we're ready for, we built this little roof over the door, kind of like a riff on what's at the guest house over a couple of the windows in the back, on the back side of the building. And then the tea hut's got a nice little sub roof over the door, entrance door on the north side of it. But a riff on those styles, and then the stucco started. So the first two coats, the scratch coat and then the brown coat. And once those were done, then the building needed to sit. It needed to sit for a while. He wanted it to cure for about a month. And so then after Gordy, our plasterer, did that, we moved on. I love these views of the guest house, and these are pictures that I took, but we had Jeff Anderson came in and helped us get shots for an article that'll be in the North American Japanese Garden Association journal. He did one using the garden as kind of like a model of the connection between garden and architecture, focused more on the garden. And now he's gonna do one, I think, from the inside out, like from the architectural aspect, and how nature is brought into the architecture, and the two, the outside, the landscape, nature, and the place where people live, the two things like fuse together in kind of a seamless way. But he's working on that article, and we did a bunch of pictures with him. I tried to take some myself while that was all going on, and if I'd had more time, I'd have downloaded the great ones, but that Jeff took. But anyway, I think Catherine took some for that shot, that photo shoot as well. But it's been busy around here, so some things I had to pull back on a little bit. Also there in July, Summer Festival was great, and here's David introducing Professor Gunji to the Consul General, who visited again. It's an honor to have him here. And Professor Gunji does a tea ceremony for that group of distinguished guests. And there's the whole group. I think this is about 4th year in a row that we've had the Consul General here. Dave, does that sound about right?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. And then for the first time, Nick had the idea to do a pruning demonstration out there to help our guests during the festival understand basic principles of pruning pines. So I think that was a really positive addition. And then, the month or so after Gordy finished the brown coat on the. Everybody okay? Huh, that was the elevator. We may have an elevator project. Anyway, so it was so great to see that building coming together, and now with the stucco. There's a shot just while the liatrice was still blooming, so that must have been sometime in August. And that gets us to this point in time again, 2015, when the stone pagoda was erected. It sort of sat there, kind of back there, a little bit lonely for a few years. And we did a little bit of boulder work around it when we did the parking lot extension in 2023. We put some big boulders around it. But people were finding their way back to that thing, because it's kind of alluring seeing that large structure back there and the big boulders along the creek, and then those big dawn redwoods, the metasequoia, which have gotten fantastic back there. So to give you a sense, the existing bridge at the, here's the existing bridge at the West Waterfall, at the near the pagoda. We call this Huichi Creek, that appears to flow out of the Garden of Reflection Pond. So here's the existing bridge, here's the pagoda, and this is the plan that Sada laid out for us, for that space. With the area, what we call the big gravel areas back there now, we call it conversation area. That is, we're gonna start working now on getting that together, so that we can engage that segment of the project in 2026. So that's coming. But what we've been working on since Labor Day is this space, this space right here. And so this is a little tighter view of the plan around the pagoda. Sada did a really nice job of laying things out to scale for us. So we knew basic parameters. And then this section of wall right here, Sada came here and built himself. And so, I guess I have a few sketches here too. So here's another sketch that he did of the water basin. So basic conceptual sketches, but, so if we jump back in time to that's right, 1999, this is actually the creek. The Huichi Creek that flows out of the Garden Reflection Pond. And so this is what it looked like at that point. So it's actually got concrete bottom stream. So it's built like a broad sidewalk with a compacted gravel base, some wire mesh, and Nick, here's a great shot of there are sleeves under that to get mechanical stuff through. We used to have them marked out there, but it's, they were wooden stakes and things get lost in time. So this might be a clue as to where those are. But this would be the location of the original bridge there, and this is about where the stone pagoda would be placed. Shortly after that shot was taken, here is how that area is built. So it's basically, again, like a big sidewalk with broad curves that keep the water in the channel, and then the boulders are set on top of that, and then they're decorated, set on top and outside of it, and just decorated accordingly to what the site needed. So a lot of that concrete we ended up finding when we dug significantly away from the edge of the stream. We kept finding that concrete, which it's held up and it was solid, so all that was good. Before we did any real work back there, we needed to get power back there for future power needs for path lighting and uplighting and so forth. And so what we did was we did another directional bore and another long, a couple hundred feet or more, something 200 and something feet from, here's the stone pagoda right here, and then we inserted the bore into the ground here, and then it goes underneath things. So it's I think it's as deep as 4 feet, and then they start creeping back up to where we hit this junction box, which all the electric for the Garden of Reflection comes through that box from the visitor center right outside there. And so we thought forward enough to put in extra conduits. So there's empty conduits in there. So now that we want to get power way out there, we have the ability to do that at a future date. But there was no easier time to do that than like before we built stuff all over the place out there and made it hard to get access. So that was the first thing we did. And then with Sada on site, the guys, let me back up just a little bit. Set the building this chunk of wall and this chunk of wall. So we had a machine, we walked a machine up the creek and he sat in the mouth of the stream of the Huichi Creek. And you can see some of that old concrete down here from the stream bottom. And Sada started building the wall. And there's David and John Anderson taking a look at progress. There's Nick and some of our guys from R&R Landscape, who do a lot to help us. They're skilled people. Found this cleaning things up back there. It says Kurisu, so this isn't, Huichi didn't do this, but some of his guys did. November 8th, 1999. That's when we did like the decorative, you got the concrete bottom and then we put black dyed mortar on there, troweled and with different size gravels thrown into it while it's wet to make it look like it's a natural bottom stream. But I hadn't seen that since, I don't know, I didn't remember it at all actually, so I don't know. So there's Sada directing work. You can still see The site, these are the boulders, one of the boulders that we set back in 2023 when we built the parking lot. So things are developing. After Sada finished his work, we were left with the basic plan, and then it was up for Nick and I to interpret that plan in the best way that, you know, we saw for the space. With some consultation with Sada. So again, we started with this area, this kind of no-beat-on style with the cobbles that are arranged carefully. And I'll show you, it started with getting a concrete base under everything. We know floodwater is gonna come through this space, so we're trying to build everything, you know, as bulletproof as possible. And so you can see the layout happening and then the excavation. We also knew that with this boulder wall and all the fresh fill behind that wall, we know it's gonna settle. And so, you know, anybody that's built a house, you know that there's like, whoops, sorry. The area outside the garage where the blacktop comes up to the garage, it always sinks.
Yeah.
And we know it's gonna happen, so let's plan on it happening. So we put this, what will be a slab of concrete. We drilled these, there's every bit of 42 inches. There was one that we couldn't get deep on, but down deep enough so that the pressure can be carried by these piers. So that slab should never tilt. It should never start leaning. You know, Nick and the guys did beautiful stonework back there, and you don't want it to start coming apart and leaning and pulling away from the boulders that it butts up to. So we try to build things so that we don't ever have to do it again. We know that some things are, you know, cyclical, and we'll have to rebuild wood things through time. But we want to make concrete things last. And so there's the forming going into place. There's essentially a brick ledge being built all the way around to put bigger glacial erratic cobbles along the edge, and then the infill will be smaller pieces. And then with a bunch of steel, I think the minimum of the pour was 10 inches thick. So it's a pretty big mass of concrete, and you can see the piers that this whole edge will sit on, and then it's tied into the massive amount of concrete that the pagoda sits on, about an 8 cubic yard blob of concrete that's 2 feet below the creek bottom, below the bottom of Spring Creek. So we built it so that we hoped it would never move. The pagoda's pretty stable, and so there's the concrete going into place. And then once the concrete is done, we knew we had to put a big boulder back in this spot. We know that it will move. This soil is gonna settle over time. We don't want that big boulder to move because it's gonna have beautiful stone right up tight against it. So we also drilled, these are 4 feet deep. So these are piers that go down actually below the stream bottom. And that rock will end up sitting on top of those. So it's a lot of work for one rock, but so is trying to fix that one rock if it ends up being off kilter. That's even harder, and you'll have to fix it again. So we tried to do it right the first time. That's basically our objective when we build things. Let's do it right the first time, and let's make it easy. Things that we know that are going to have to be rebuilt, easier for the next people that come along that need to do this. And so there's Nick got Yuli and Donovan going on this, and they all work together on it at various points. But you can see the bigger pieces going in around the edge, sitting on what is effectively the brick ledge. And there's Nick working with the guys. Nick and Donovan actually did some of this together down in Texas at one of the workshops there at the Don Miners back in 2022, I think it was. It sounds about right, huh, Nick?
Yes.
I got some great pictures of that, but anyway, things are start coming together. This rock right here, I know who picked that rock up out of Lake Michigan.
Is he here?
He is here. He is here tonight. Please raise your hand, Joe Shaning. We brought that rock back on a trip we did together up to Door County, and it was like, that is the right rock. There's a longer story that I won't go into. But, that's it right there. Joe picked that rock out. And there's Nick and Yuli. You can start to see the composition coming together, the granite slabs that are integrated into the composition. And there it is, not long after they completed the upper portion. But you can see all these big voids where we left, for soil to start when planting begins. And so we're headed in that direction. In the meantime, while Nick and Yuli did a lot of work on the Nobidon, that cobblestone arrangement around the pagoda, we did boulder setting. Well, actually, we built this road across the creek, across Huichi Creek, so that we could build the steps and the wall that retain that area. And right here, this red spot illustrates where we basically built a road across the creek, a little road. And actually, so there it is with the bridge laid out. You can see this is Sada's plan. It's very simple. There's a lot of room for interpretation and decision-making in the field. And, but we're getting there. So the bridge is kind of laid out, the boulders are set. And just to give you an idea what that looked like, Nick was our operator of the machine, and he's got a great sensitivity to the machine, and is really, you gotta have a guy in the machine that you can trust while boulder setting. And it's nice to have somebody that understands boulder setting. So that was a huge plus. And so we're just, that's what it looked like from about where the pagoda is. And then once we finished doing the rock setting on the east side of the creek, then we took that road out of there, and then we built the piers for the bridge to sit on. And so that's what Ramon Acosta is doing there. We always had good guidance. And oversight. Plenty of good solid oversight. And encouragement. I want to mention, there's so many things that could be talked about, and so a lot of this is from my perspective, but the Anderson Japanese Garden Tea Study Group has been a great addition to us. They've now celebrated 10 years here at the garden under the direction of Professor Gunji. Sachio is one of the students, and she's become an amazing maker of the wagashi, the sweets for tea. And so they're so seasonal, and there's so many different variations. These are chrysanthemum flowers, and they're both delicious and beautiful. So for those that don't know, the sweet would be eaten just before drinking the tea to take a little bit of the bitterness off the edge of the tea. Really good tea, I don't find bitter at all, but like it's just it's a nice treat. Got to the point where this stone basin with the hole carved in the top, that actually was in front of the Anderson's house for a long time, until the house was torn down in 2008. And so we thought it'd be great to use that basin down there. So it had been sitting around in that area for a few years since we did the parking lot, knowing that it would be a nice addition. Sada came up with the idea of using it in this area, and then so we went about building it. We went about building the basin that it would sit in. It started with a cardboard mock-up of the shape. Where should it go? Moving it around in the space. Okay, this is a good spot. Then we dig a big hole, and we know about where we want this to sit. And we build a concrete basin with a rubber liner so it won't ever leak or if it cracks. It'll have it'll hold the water. We want it to hold a little bit of water, probably. And then the drain that goes down to the creek, we plumbed that all in there. And then again, mocking it up with our piece of cardboard before we go to work, setting the actual boulder of the actual basin in there. and then actually installing it with some, supporting rocks in the area. And some stepping stones that lead up to it. And in the meantime, actually, we were building the bridge while a lot of this stuff was going on. There's Donovan bolting the beams down. And then a few days later, that didn't take long, it's a very simple bridge, actually. But you can see the steps are mocked up over there. So things are starting to take shape. It's taken a while, but it's starting to happen. Mid-October, a group of us went down to the North American Japanese Garden Association International Conference in St. Louis at the Missouri Botanic Garden. It was another great conference with lots of workshop opportunities. And here's Avram Dalton, an amazing, he's like almost an academic mind for Japanese gardens and construction styles, and he works closely with Mr. Edzo. But here's Avram explaining this particular fence style. At the same time, there were boulder setting workshops. Bill Castellan, who's a prominent builder of Japanese style gardens on the West Coast, done some amazing work. A couple people from the Aesthetic Pruning Association, one from the West Coast, one from the East Coast, doing pine demonstrations and training of pines. And then again, here's Mr. Edzo. He's kind of the ringleader of this group, and Avram is his assistant. John Powell was part of this workshop. Many of you know John Powell, who was actually working on Dwayne Wingate's garden right down the street. There's David Shiposh right there, who's done so much work with woodworking out in the garden here with rebuilding the Giboshi Bridge, his latest prominent project here. But he's done many other rebuild and repair things here. But then upon returning, after a really successful conference, we're building the step that'll jump up to the Nogadan. Some nice atmospheric music coming out here. So again, we want to build things that don't fall apart. And with like these stone steps, that'll be these are the risers for the path down to the bridge. Here's that bridge right there. The steps will be right here. The stone bench that's already back there, what we call the memorial path, that's like right here. It's out here. And so what you're seeing is how that'll look through that area. But we drilled into the back of our risers, some stainless steel rod into the stone, into construction epoxy. And so now we've got these rods sticking out the back. Those get inserted into the path at the right elevation, and then we fill that with concrete behind there, so that these can't ever, because you see in the garden in spots where they pitch, and they start, and the flat, what used to be flat ends up with an angle on it, and so it becomes slippery. And so we don't want that to happen, and we don't want any of them to fall over, and so we think this is gonna work. But you can see the peeler pole, style of edging, things are falling into place. And we're getting there, we're almost there. There's Yuli and Luis working on Nobidan with the bigger glacial erratics along the edge. And then this is a nice shot of what it looks like with just the edge stones finished. So this is actually the walkway down to the viewing house. And for the pavement style, I kind of wanted to do this. This is like a flowing water style. You can see how things kind of meander along like that. And so I wanted to try that back there with some of the paving on those steps. And so, had never done that before, but gave it a best shot, drew some lines out on the ground, made some patterns out of plastic, and then started inserting the pieces into the puzzle. Used rosin paper, like a common construction paper, to lay out how the little pieces would be so we could do it efficiently and quickly. in retrospect, I'm not sure how really quick it was, but it worked, and we were able to get the work done. So as things evolve, we started putting some plants in. It's so like a major refreshing step when like green things start to come in around all this hardscape. That's always an exciting time. It's kind of like when you put sod down on a new lawn. It's so it's so fulfilling.
Instant gratification.
Oops. And then we went up and we planted the area around our storage area. We want to be good neighbors and screen our storage area. So we're actually going to build a fence. We ordered the bases for the fence posts. That'll be happening probably this winter as weather allows. But we planted a whole bunch of pines. The neighbors are very happy with what we've been doing up there. We planted there, and then we planted a lot of stuff below that big concrete wall, what we call the north slope. So we don't want that wall to be really visible. So we planted a lot of evergreen material up there. And so I think with time, those are gonna really pay off nicely. Back at the pagoda, there was a red leaf Japanese maple. Here's that memorial bench right back here, that stone bench. I think that's it. It's right in there. And this red tree, but we wanted the one red tree like at the pagoda, like the whole focal, everything moving towards the pagoda. So the guys dug that up. We made a little makeshift bridge and slid it across the stream and planted it right here. So things, you can see things are starting to come together back there nicely. We finished up the stonework. Here's Nick sweeping in polymeric sand between the joints. And this is on the other side of the creek. We arranged the stones here as a transition to the next phase of the project, which we don't know really what it's gonna be yet, but we have an idea, a basic idea, but we'll re-engage with Sada, and we bring him back sometime, hopefully early in the year, to get planning going so that we can engage that next phase. Look at the trunks on these medicine sequoia, they're fantastic. And really the kind of the work has really highlighted them. And then we have not only the flagstone paving, that's actually Fond du Lac stone that we've been using. But we're doing some exposed aggregate with another granite transition here. The water basin is right over here. So they're prepping that, concrete going in. We trowel the control joints carefully so that it flows nicely with the space. We're getting better at that, I think, as time goes on. Some of the early concrete work out there was a little clunky, but we're getting better at it. And then, excuse me, once they, you know, they put calcium chloride, I think it is, into the concrete to make it cure faster. It's a heat-inducing reaction. The concrete is warmer, the faster it reacts, the quicker it sets. And then they spray sugar water on the top. The sugar water acts as a retardant. So you got the concrete setting up quickly up below, but on the top, you don't want it to set up. You want it to remain easily cleanable. And then the guys go through with this, it's a pressure washer. And it's kind of like laying sod. It's fulfilling, you know. All of a sudden, the beauty is revealed when that cream is rinsed off the top and the little pebbles are revealed in the aggregate. And so once all that's done, it's kind of messy, but once that's done, you know, the form's still on there. It's just so great to see things starting to appear, you know. Another thing, here's actually a screenshot off my computer as we were trying to, I was looking for, you know, the tiles on top of the tea hut. And last November, we went to work because these tiles, as we found out, there's cement where these little valleys are, and each one of these swooping tiles. The was cement in there, but underneath that, and holding the tiles up and together, it was basically mud. And as time goes on, with all the expansion and contraction, those little pieces of concrete start to fall out and break, and then that mud, which is turned into like just dust, starts leaking out, and then the tiles get all wonky and off kilter. And so, this is what it looked like when we took them apart. This is what was in there. It's just like clay that is so dry that it's powdery. It had pebbles and little bits of stone. So we took it apart with some anxiety, and we had scaffolding set up so we could get up there and actually work on that thing. Some kind of tough access spot. And then we used this product. This stuff here is kind of amazing. This is like the modern, instead of using cement in there or some kind of mortar, it's called Flexum, and it's made in the Netherlands. It's very squeezable. Come up and give it a squeeze. It's made of linseed oil and little tiny styrene beads. It's an extraordinary material, and so it works great as bedding for these tiles. It's what it's made for. It's for tile bedding for roofs. Comes in different colors and actually paintable when it skins over. It still stays malleable. We have we put a block on the stucco gate, the old stucco gate wall over there by the maintenance garage. It's still pliable. It's been out there for over a year. It's tough on the outside, but it's still squishy. You can still manipulate it a little bit. It's pretty amazing material. And so when we were all done and finished out, we were back to the original look. If it ever needs to be taken apart again, you can take it apart. It's not like using cement and having something that, you're gonna break tiles if you try to take it apart. And so then, but I don't like being on that roof. I almost slid off that roof one time, and I actually did slide, and then I caught a tree. So I don't wanna go up there. It's even when they look dry, they're deceptively dangerous. But so we had a roofer come in, and Brady, he took the ridge apart. Be smart, don't get hurt. Brady is comfortable, and he reset all the ridge tiles just last Sunday. So we feel good about the roof on the T-hut now, and it should be set for a long time. This is just hot off the press. This was taken this afternoon at about 3 o'clock or something. So here's the water basin. Nick and the guys installed some stones. Here's the little tobiishi, the stepping stones. 1, 2, 3 to go over towards the basin. And it's all starting to come together. Here's the spout for the water basin. We'll fire that up tomorrow. It's ready to go. Mm-hmm. So we're almost there.
Wow. That's cool.
We've put quite a few plants in the last few days, so that really is it's 8/11. That's not too bad. And so many people that should be thanked for what happens here. Our guests, we are here for our guests and for the experience that the garden can provide for them. All of our garden members and our sponsors, supporters and collaborators. There's so many people that help us do what we do here successfully. The garden crew, everybody that's here, and all the gardeners from the past. One of them is the guy the picture hanging on the wall over there, who was instrumental. You can see it when you walk out above the bench. Jim's fingerprints are all over out there. And I was lucky to be mentored by him and became a close friend. But all the gardeners, there's been so many through the years. It's just their impact is out there. Our volunteers, Randy and Laurel and Jeff, and I don't think those are our key volunteers. They come out and work with our garden crew. And then of course our docents who take the pressure off of us as gardeners by guiding people through the garden and helping translate the garden, if you will, in some ways. And our administration staff, who does a great job of supporting us. so many things with the fundraising, operations, events, admissions, our health and wellness, and catering overseas, all that stuff. And they support us without, it's without getting in our way. They let us do our work and they support us. And so, reciprocally, if we can make a nice product out there, then it makes their job better, right? So it's all like this. We work kind of hand in hand to make it happen. And then we have some contractors here that are so valuable for us, from electricity and landscape help to our plant suppliers, like the Carlson Growers, and we have a lot of great members that help make all this thing. And so that like I talk a lot about why the garden works for people and different other presentations, and I talk a lot about what Huichi calls positive distractions, that you go out in the garden and all these little interesting things start to happen that grab your attention. Some people call it soft fascination. Huichi calls it positive distractions. And so when you're walking in the garden, whether it's light shining through a grove of maples, or through the pines, or fog in the morning, or the way the wind rustles the leaves, all these little things that, the sound of water, all these things that grab your attention incrementally, and then as you move through the garden, those positive distractions start to lull you into a state of receptivity, when now you can be finally open and free of crazy traffic and the crummy news and all the things that kind of drag us down. We can be liberated from that, and that's the most primary function that the garden can do, is to help people get away from all that burden and finally be open and receptive and able to maybe think a little more clearly. And so this, from Huichi's designer statement, little by little we are encouraged to lay aside the chaos of a troubled world and gently nurture the capacity within to hear a more harmonious universal rhythm. And Huichi has been a great thing for the Andersons and for this place and for the people that come here because of his vision. And what he's doing is enunciating things that have been known for a long time to people that were integrated with nature closely. And Japanese culture is so integrated with nature in many ways. And we know that's important, and that's one of the key roles that a garden like this can do, is help get people in touch with nature in a safe way, and be able to bring your kids and your family. There's so many positive things that a garden like this can do, and so I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here, and I'm grateful for all of you being here tonight. So if there's any, 4 more full moons, right?
Right.
4 more full moons, we'll be back in action out in the garden. That's early March. The gardeners will be in full force out there, and so just enjoy the winter the best you can, and stay in touch with the moon, know where it's at. It's nice to look forward to the next phase. And so anyway, is there any questions anybody might have? Just maybe time for a couple, 2 or 3. That's okay if you don't.
I
Yeah,
had
sure.
someone ask me what the roofs were made of.
What the roofs are made of?
Yeah,
Like on the guest house and the tea hut,
yeah.
the shingles are, the shingles are copper, and the tiles are, fired glazed ceramic tiles. Yeah, the tiles are from Japan. The shingles for the guest house were made here in the States, but actually Hamada brought the copper for the tea hut from Japan. Yeah, and then of course there's a lot of cedar shingles out there too, and sun cedar shingles. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thanks everybody.